Welcome, welcome, welcome to our wonderful spiritual morning. Let's start our beautiful day with bowing in gratitude to the divine cosmic timings that's happening around us. It's unfolding. So let's close our eyes and imagine the supermoon in its full glory, the beautiful bright moon that listens to all that we say. So let's check, how are we feeling this morning? Bright, wonderful, grateful. What all is there that we can thank? Maybe we can scan yesterday's day and see what all is there for us to be grateful for. Who all did you meet? Was there something that you learned or felt good? Did you celebrate something? Did you celebrate bonds or life or friendship or relationships? Did you see anything to do with Mother Nature, trees, plants? How grateful we all are living on this beautiful Mother Earth, who's forever giving us something or the other, nurturing us, whether we realize or whether we don't. How magical life has become, whether we realize or whether we don't. How newer things happen and unfold in life. Are we in harmony to understand that what's happening around us? Or do we need to raise our consciousness to be aware that we have been gifted with so much? Let's be grateful for every single thing that's happening in our life. Knowing that we are the creators of our life, we are co creating our life with the divine beings. Let's be aware of the blessings that we all receive. Love and blessings is all there is. And how aware are we? Are we tapping into our own divinity? Realizing that things are meant to be. And have we stopped playing the victim game? Stop blaming others. Stop looking at the negative side and start expanding the positive. Because slowly and gradually, that's is what is going to happen at a DNA level. How wonderful is life? Let's be grateful to all the masters, the divine beings, the angel guardians, spirit guides, ancestors, parents, the reason why we are here on Mother Earth. To be so grateful to each one of them. For they're all the time showering us with immense love. Can we be aware of how life is unfolding so magically, so beautifully, in and around us? every single day, every single moment. To understand the divine synchronicities, all we have to do is become aware. Become aware that the cosmos is here for us. It is not against us. It is there to protect us, to guard us, to guide us. But are we in equation with it? Are we truly aware that so much of energy lies within us? That so much of divinity lies within us? With this beautiful new thought of this new day, can we create a day full of substance? Because blessings have immense power. Can we send out our blessings to the world? Just open your hands and spread blessings far and wide, to the seen and the unseen, to the known and the unknown. And when our eyes are closed and our hands are open, can we expand our heart and say, Dear angel heart, through you with so much of love, I become the channel. I choose to become the channel to spread love and light. And simply keep spreading love, keep spreading light. And as you expand your love, feel the emotion of love, knowing that love is everywhere, affirming that I am love, I am loving, I am lovable. I love and approve of life. I trust life has my back. I trust life and I know I'm safe. And I am willing to become the better version of myself, come what may. There may have been problems, there may have been stoppages, but I am here on a mission to become a better version of myself. That I am willing to change. And as we affirm that, let's start a beautiful morning knowing that divinity is happening around us. Today we read something, we're going to learn something. It's there to teach us so many things. Slowly, gradually, rub your hands. Bless your wonderful eyes that help you see the world more beautifully, with more love, with more light. And we're going to be reading chapter number 10 in Only Love is Real. Wonderful. Chapter 10. I have been here before, but when or how I can't tell. I know the grass beyond the door, the sweet, keen smell, the sighing sound, the lights around the shore. You have been mine before. How long ago, I may not know. But just when at that swallow's soar, your neck turned so, some whale did full knew it all of yore, says Dante Gabriel Rossetti. Very important for us to know that whoever we are living life right now with are the people we have lived lives with before. If we're having struggle in our relationships, it's only because we meant to learn a lesson. So, where is our consciousness? Looking at the bright side or looking at the dark side? And for this, the easiest therapy to get out of this would be to journal, to know, to count our blessings, to etch our blessings. When we write, we expand. Back to the reading for today. In fact, starting the reading for today. Dr. Y says Pedro entered the middle of a difficult lifetime. Sometimes the difficult ones offer the most opportunities to learn, opportunities to progress more quickly along our paths. Sometimes relatively easy lifetimes offer fewer chances for advancement. There are times to rest. This was definitely not one of the easy ones. Immediately, Pedro was angry and he clenched his jaws tightly. They're making me go and I do not want to. I do not wish that kind of life. Where are they making you go? I asked, looking for clarification. Into the priesthood to be a monk. I do not want this, he said, insistently. He was silent for a moment, still angry. Then he began to explain. I am the youngest son. It is expected that I do this, but I do not want to leave her. We are in love, but if I go, someone else will have her, not me. I can't bear that. I would die first. But he didn't die. Instead, he became gradually resigned to the inevitable. He had to separate from his love. His heart was ripped out, but he continued to live anyway. Years passed. It's not so bad now. The life is peaceful. I'm very attached to the abbot and I've chosen to stay with him. After more silence, a recognition. He is my brother. My brother. I know it is him. We are very close. I can see his eyes. Pedro had finally found his deceased brother. I knew that now his grief would begin to heal. The brothers had indeed been together before, and if before, they would be together again. More years passed. The abbot grew old. He will leave me soon, Pedro predicted. But we will be together again in heaven. We have prayed for that. The abbot soon died, and Pedro grieved. He prayed and he meditated, and the time of his death approached. He had contracted tuberculosis and he was coughing. Breathing was difficult. His spiritual brother stood around his bedside. I let him pass quickly to the other side. There was no need to suffer again. I learned about anger and forgiveness. He began not even waiting for me to ask about the lessons about that lifetime. I learned that anger is foolish. It eats at the soul. Isn't this beautiful? जब हम गुस्सा होते हैं किसको नुकसान होता है सामने वाले को ऑफ कोर्स होता है बट मैक्सिमम नुकसान कहाँ है who's burning who's breathing in pain we with anger is coming from us and it takes us a while to come back to senses and to get out of the anger state of mind. So it's imperative that we understand that anger eats at the soul. Somebody has learned that lesson after being angry, after dying. Why was he angry? Because when he was a little child, not little child, a little boy, he was in love, but he was forced to become a monk. But then what good thing happened when he became a monk? He met his lifetime soul companion, or his soulmate, his brother. So he realizes that my parents did what they had to, what they thought best for me and for them. They did not understand the intensity of my passions for, or that I had the right to determine the direction of my life, not they. They meant well, but they did not understand. They were ignorant, but I have been ignorant also. I have commanded the lives of others. So how can I judge them to be angry with them when I have done the same? Now, this reflection is so deep, so profound, so beautiful. All of us, in some time in life, have done something to somebody, but what we remember is what people have done to us. We forget what we have done to people. So it's very important for us to reflect on our life, journal, accept, and forgive. The first most step for us to go inward in our soul's journey is to understand that we too have played some role which we do not want others to play in our life. And for that, we did what we had to do because at that conscious level, it seemed the most wise decision. Nobody does anything out of vengeance. Primarily, we're doing this out of our consciousness. And that felt right at that moment. And then life unfolded. He was silent again, then resumed. This is why forgiveness is so important. We have all done those things for which we condemn others. If we want to be forgiven, we must forgive them. God forgives us. We should forgive too. He was still reviewing the lessons. अपने आप को forgive करने से पहले हमें दूसरों को forgive करना भी important है. Blame करना बहुत आसान है, but हमें पता होना चाहिए that moment, that person, whoever did whatever, did to the best of his or her knowledge. I would not have met the abbot if I had my way, he concluded. There is always compensation, always grace, always goodness. If we just look for it, if I had remained angry and bitter, if I had resented my life, I would have missed the love and the goodness that I found in the monastery. There were other smaller lessons. I learned about the power of prayer and meditation, he added. He was silent again as he pondered the lessons and implication of that saintly life. Perhaps it was better to sacrifice romantic love, he conjectured, for the greater love of God and my brothers. I was not sure, and neither was he. Several hundred years later in Germany, Pedro's soul in Magda chose a very different path. The next step in Pedro's journey to find the meeting point between spiritual love and romantic love occurred immediately after his memory of the monk. I am being pulled back to another life, he announced abruptly. I must go. Go ahead, I urged. What's happening? He was silent for a few moments. I'm lying on the ground, gravely wounded. There are soldiers nearby. They have pulled me over the ground and the rocks. I am dying, he gasped. My head and my side hurt badly, he muttered in a thin voice. They are no longer interested in me. The rest of the poor man's story slowly emerged. When he stopped responding, the soldiers left. He could see them above him in their short leather uniforms and boots. They were not happy. They were having their fun, but they had not really meant to kill him. They were not sad. These people were not worth very much. All in all, an unsatisfying escapade. His daughter came to him, wailing and sobbing, and she softly cradled his head in her lap. She rocked rhythmically, and he could feel the life ebbing from his shattered body. His ribs must have been broken because there was a sharp pain with every breath. He tasted blood in his mouth. His strength was diminishing rapidly now. He tried to speak to his daughter, but he could not utter a word. A distant gurgling came from somewhere in the depths of his body. I love you, father, he heard her softly say. He was so weak to answer. He loved her very much. This daughter, he would miss her beyond human endurance. His eyes closed for the last time and the incredible pain disappeared. Somehow he could still see. He felt extremely light and free. He found himself looking down at his crumpled body, his head and shoulders resting limply in his daughter's lap. She was sobbing, completely unaware that he was now at peace, that the pain was gone, that she was focusing only on his body, a body that no longer held him, rocking slowly back and forth. He could leave his family now if he wanted. They would be all right. They only needed to remember that they would leave their bodies when the time arrived. He became aware of a marvelous light, brighter and more beautiful than 1,000 suns. Yet he could look directly at it. Someone or near the light was beckoning to him. His grandmother. She looked so young, so radiant, so healthy. He desired to go to her, and instantly he was with her near the light. It is good to see you again, my child, she thought. the words appearing in his consciousness. It has been a long time. Did you read the word? It appeared in his consciousness. When the soul leaves the body and goes up, dialogue don't happen the way right now. I have to read and you have to hear, and we all reading and hearing and understanding. Then it's all transmission telepathically. I feel and you feel. I say in my mind and you hear it. There's nothing like I could be pretending to say something when I'm in a different mental frame. You would understand it if we're up there. Life up is so much more beautiful. And yet, and yet, we human beings are scared of death because we're scared of leaving our loved ones behind. But haven't we understood in here that the loved ones are meant to be? In one life and another, they will always be there. So it's just a pause. The way we sleep at the end of the day that's just a pause. You wake up next day, then life starts again. Love is everywhere. We are loving, we are loved, we are lovable. So what's to have this scare about? It's a soul's journey, and you and me are traversing our soul's journey. It's good to see you again, my child. It has been a long time. She's hugged him in arms of spirit, and they walked towards the light. Pedro's haunting story completely engrossed me. Moved by his grief at leaving his daughter, I could feel the profound sadness of his parting words. However, I rejoiced at the uplifting encounter with his grandmother. If I was not so overwhelmed by the emotions of the moment, which also evoked the tragic memory of my own son's death, perhaps my mind would have made the connection between Pedro and Elizabeth. I'd heard the daughter's words before. As Miriam, Elizabeth had rocked back and forth on the bloody ground, cradling her dying father, and she had whispered the same lament. The stories were eerily similar. Now see the magic unfold. At that moment, not only was my view obscured by emotions, but several weeks and dozens of other patients had intervened since Elizabeth's recounting. This dimmed my awareness even more. The discovery of the entwined destinies would be delayed to a different day. My mind flashed back to the short life of my born son, Adam. I think it was my mental picture of the grief of Pedro's daughter in that ancient life that precipitated in this memory. Carol and I had rocked in each other's arms after the early morning phone call from the doctor at the hospital. Adam's life had ended at 23 days. Heroic open heart surgery could not save him. We cried and we rocked. There was nothing else we could do at the moment. Our grief seemed overwhelming beyond physical and mental endurance. Even breathing became difficult. It hurt to take a deep breath, and air was hard to come by, as if there was a constricting corset around our chests, a corset of grief, but with no ties to undo. With time, the intensity and sharpness of our sadness slowly abated, but the hole in our hearts remained. We had Jordan, we had Amy, and their unique and special children, but they do not replace Adam. The passage of time did help. Like ripples in a pond after a heavy stone disturbs its peaceful surfaces, waves or grief spread slowly outwards, like the first waves which lightly encircled the stone. Everything in our lives was connected to Adam. With time, new people and new experiences came into our lives. They were not as directly connected to Adam and to our path, ripples spreading over outwards. More new events, more new things, more new people, breathing room. We could take deep breaths again. You never forget the hurt, but at the same time, but as time passes, you can live around it. Isn't that really beautiful? Our loved ones go, it hurts. But we can live life without them. It's not like we can't. We continue to live, to breathe. We met
Adam again 10 years later in Miami. He talked to us through Catherine, the patient described in Many Lives, Many Masters, and our lives were never the same. After a decade of pain, we began to understand about the immortality of souls. Chapter 11. W.B. Yeats says, many times man lives and dies between his two eternities, that of race and that of soul. The ancient Ireland knew it all. Whether man die in his bed or the rifle knocks him dead. A brief parting from those dear is the worst man has to fear. Though grave diggers' toil is long, sharp their spades, their muscles strong, but they thrust the buried men back in the human mind again. Elizabeth sobbed slowly as she sat in the familiar recliner. Her mascara was running in jagged lines away from her eyes. I gave her a tissue and she dabbed absent-mindedly at her eyes as the black mascara lines gained speed in their descent towards her chin. She had just finished recounting a life as an Irish woman, a life that had ended peacefully and with much happiness. Yet the stark contrast to her current life, with its losses and despair and causing her pain. And so she cried, despite the happy ending. There were tears of sadness, not of joy. The day's session had begun much more dramatic, much less dramatically. Elizabeth had only recently regained the energy and self confidence to enter into a relationship. This time, a short time encounter with an older man. Elizabeth was initially attracted to him because he had the money and position, but there was no chemistry, at least to him, at least not on her part. Her head urged her to settle, to accept that he was secure. He seemed to care for her quite a lot. And who else was there for her anyway? Elizabeth's heart said, no, do not settle. You do not love him, and without love, what is there? Her heart's argument finally won. He was pressing her to deepen the relationship, to have sex, to make commitments. Elizabeth decided to end it. She was relieved, sad to be lonely again, but not depressed. Overall, she was handling the end of this relationship very approximately, appropriately. And yet here she was, eyes red, nose stuffy, mascara running wildly. When we started the regression process, Elizabeth lapsed into a deep trance, and I took her back in time once again. This time she emerged in Ireland several centuries ago. I am very pretty. I have dark hair and light blue eyes. I dress very plainly and wear no makeup or jewelry, and I'm as if I'm hiding. My skin is so white like cream. Hiding from what? From my husband. Yes, from him. He's a lout. He drinks too much and he becomes violent. He's so selfish. I curse this marriage. Why do you choose him? I did not choose him. I would never choose him. My parents chose him and now they're dead. They are dead, but I still have to live with them, with him. He's all I have now. Do you have any children? Does anyone live with you? No, I can't. I had a miscarriage. There was great deal of bleeding and infection. They say I can't bear children. He's angry at me for that too. He blames me for not bearing him sons. As if I wanted this. She was upset again. He hits me, she added in a suddenly soft voice. He hits me as if I were a dog. I hate him for that. She stopped talking and tears formed in the corners of his eyes. He hits you? Yes. I waited for more, but she was reluctant to elaborate. Where does he hit you? On my back, my arms, my face, everywhere. Can you stop him? At times, I used to hit back, but then he hurts me more. He drinks too much. The best thing I can do is accept the beating. Eventually, he tires and stops until the next time. Look at him closely, I urged her. Look into his eyes, see if you recognize him as anyone in your current life. Elizabeth's eyes narrowed and her brow furrowed, as if she were looking even through her eyelids remained closed. I do know him as George. George. Good. You're back in that lifetime. The beatings have stopped. She had recognized the banker, George, with whom she had a relationship a year and a half earlier. The relationship had ended when George became physically abusive. Patterns such as abusiveness can persist over many lifetimes if they're not recognized and broken. At some subconscious level, Elizabeth and George had remembered each other. They had come together once again and he tried to resume the abuse. However, Elizabeth had learned an important lesson over centuries. The time Elizabeth had the strength and self respect to end the relationship soon after the abuse began. When past life origins are discovered, it is even easier to break destructive patterns. I looked over at Elizabeth. She was quiet. She seemed so sad and hopeless. I had enough information about her abusive husband and decided to move her ahead in time. I will count backwards from 3 to 1 and tap you lightly on the forehead, I told her. As I do this, move ahead to the next significant event in your life. Let it come into complete focus in your mind as I count. See what happens to you. On the count of 1, she began to smile blissfully. I was glad there was a little light in this bleak life. He has died, thank God, and I'm so happy. I'm with the man I love. He's so kind and gentle. He never hits me. We love each other. He's a very good man. We are happy together. How did your husband die? In a tavern. He was killed in a fight. They tell me that he was stabbed in the chest with a long knife. It must have pierced his heart. They tell me blood was everywhere. I'm not sad that he died. I would never have met John otherwise. John is a wonderful man. Again, as I pressed forward, go ahead in time and see what happens to you and John. Go in the next significant event in your lives. She was silent, scanning the years. I'm so weak. My heart is fluttering so. I can't catch my breath. Is John around? Oh, yes. He's sitting in the bed and holding my hand. He's very concerned, very attentive. He knows he is going to lose me. We are sad about it, but happy that we lived so many good years together. She paused. Remembering the scene with John at the bedside, only Elizabeth's relationship with her beloved mother had approached an incredible level of joy, love, and intimacy she had shared with John. Look closely at John. Look at his face and his eyes. See if you recognize him as someone in your present life. Recognition often immediately occurs with an unmistakable certainty when a patient looks into the other person's eyes. The eyes may truly be the window to the soul. No, I do not know him. She paused again, then spoke with alarm in her voice. My heart is giving out. It's very erratic now. I feel like I want to leave this body now. It's okay, leave that body. Tell me what happens to you. After a few moments, she began to describe the events following her death. Her face looked peaceful, her breathing relaxed. I am hovering above and to the side of my body near the corner of the ceiling. I can see John sitting with my body. He's just sitting there. He doesn't want to move. He will be all alone now. We only had each other. Then you never had children. No, I could not. But that wasn't important. We had each other, and that was enough for us. She lapsed into silence. Her face felt very peaceful, a smile forming. It's so beautiful here. I am aware of a beautiful light all around me. It pulls at me, and I want to follow it. It is a beautiful light. It restores you with energy. Go ahead, I said. We travel through a beautiful valley with trees and flowers all around. I am becoming aware of many things, many information, much knowledge. But I don't want to forget about John. I must remember John. And if I learn all the other things, I might forget John, and I can't. You will remember John too, I advised. But I was not really sure. What was the other knowledge she was being given? It's all about lifetimes and energies, about how we use our lifetimes to perfect our energies so that we can move on to higher worlds. They're telling me about energy and about love and about how these are the same when we understand what love really is. But I do not want to forget about John. I will remind you all about John. Good is there more. No, that is all there for now. Then she added, we can learn more about love by listening to our intuitions. Perhaps the last comment had more levels of meaning, especially for me. Years earlier, the master speaking about Catherine had told me at the very end of her session and the amazing revelations, what we tell you is for now. You must now learn through your own intuition. There would be no more revelations through Catherine's hypnosis. Elizabeth rested. There would be no further revelations today either. I awakened her, and after her mind reoriented to the present time, she began to cry softly. Why are you crying? I gently asked her. Because I loved him so much. I don't think I will ever love someone that much again. I have never met any man that I could love like that and who loved me back in the same way. And without that love, how can my life ever be complete? How can I ever be completely happy? You never know, I objected. But without much conviction, you could meet someone and fall madly in love again. You could even meet John again in another body, sure, she said with sarcasm. Her tears kept falling. You're just trying to make me feel better. I've got a better chance of winning the lottery than of finding him again. The odds of winning the lottery, I remembered, were 14 million to 1. In Through Time with Healing, I described the reunion of Ariel and Anthony. A reunion with a soulmate after a long and involuntary separation can be an experience worth waiting for, even if the wait is for one of centuries. On a vacation in the Southwest, my former patient, Ariel, a biologist, met an Australian named Cantony. Both were emotionally mature individuals who had been married before, and they quickly fell in love and became engaged. Back in Miami, Ariel suggested that Anthony have a regression session with me, just for me to see if we could have the experience and to see what came up. They were both curious to find out whether would appear in any way in Anthony's regression. Anthony turned out to be a superb regression subject. Almost instantly, he returned to a very vivid North African lifetime around the time of Hannibal, more than 2,000 years ago. In that lifetime, Antony had been a member of a very advanced civilization. His particular tribe was fair skinned and they were gold smellers who had had the ability to use liquid fire as a weapon by spreading it on the surface of rivers. Antony, was a youth man in by mid 20s in the midst of fighting a 40-day war with neighboring darker skinned tribe that vastly outnumbered the defenders. Antony's tribe had actually trained some of the members of the enemy tribe in the art of warfare. And one of the former trainees was leading the assault. 100,000 of the enemy carrying swords and hatchets were crossing a large river on ropes as Antony and his people spread liquid fire on their own in the river, hoping it would reach the attackers before the attackers reached the shore. To protect their women and children, the defending tribe put most of them on large boats with violent sails in the middle of a huge lake. Among these group was Antony's young and beloved fiancée, who was perhaps 17 or 18 years old. However, the liquid fire suddenly burned out of control, and they both caught fire. Most of the tribe's women and children persisted in this tragic accident, perished in this tragic accident, including Antony's fiancée, who was his great passion. This tragedy broke the morale of the warriors, and they were soon defeated. Antony was one of the few who escaped the slaughter through brutal hand to hand fighting. Eventually, he escaped to a secret passageway that led to a warren of rooms underneath the large temple where the tribe's treasures were stored. There, Antony had found one other living person, his king. The king commanded Antony to kill him, and Antony, a loyal soldier, complied against his will. After the king's death, Antony was all alone in the dark. temple where he used to have time to write the history of his people on gold leaf and to seal the writing in large urns or jars. It was here that he eventually died of starvation and grief over the loss of his fiancée and his people. There were one more detail. His fiancée in that lifetime reincarnated as Ariel in this lifetime. The two of them reunited as lovers after 2000 years. Finally, the long postponed wedding would take place. Antony and Ariel had only been separated for 1 hour when he stepped out of my office. But the power of the reunion was such that it was as though they had not seen each other for 2000 years. Recently, Ariel and Antony were married. Their sudden and intense and seemingly coincidental meeting now has a new layer of meaning to them, and their already passionate relationship is now infused with a sense of continuous adventure. Antony and Ariel plan to take a trip in North Africa to try and find the location of their past life together and to see what other details they can uncover. They know that whatever they find can only increase the adventure they find in each other. How beautiful is that? Chapter number 12. Frederick the Great said, "Though I may not be a king in my future life, so much the better. I shall nevertheless live an active life and on top of it earn less ingratitude." He was perspiring profusely now for the second time, despite the heavy air conditioning in my office. Sweat poured down his face, drenched his shirt, rolled down his neck. A moment ago, he had shaking chills and his entire body shivered, but malaria could do that. Alternating bone chilling cold and inflaming heat. Francisco was dying from this dreaded disease alone and thousands of miles from his loved ones. It was a terrible, painful way to die. Pedro had begun this office visit by drifting into a deeply relaxed hypnotic state. He quickly went back through time and space into a past lifetime and immediately he began to sweat. I tried to dry his face with tissues, but it was like trying to stop a flood with one's hands. The sweat kept pouring down. I hoped that any physical discomfort caused by the drenching sweat would not affect the depth and intensity of his trance state. "I'm a man with black hair and tan skin," he gasped through sweat. "I'm unloading a large wooden ship, heavy cargo. It's boiling hot here. I see palm trees and flimsy wooden structures nearby. I'm a sailor. We're in the New World. Do you know the name?" "Francisco. My name is Francisco. I am a sailor." I had meant the name of the place, but he was becoming aware of his name in that lifetime. "Do you know the name of this place?" I asked again. He paused for a moment, still sweating profusely. "I don't see that," he answered. "One of these accursed pots. There's gold here in the jungle. Somewhere in the distant mountains, we will find it. I can keep some of what I find. The accursed place." "Where are you from? Do you know where your home is?" "On the other side of the sea, in Spain, where we are from." He was including his fellow sailors, unloading a ship's cargo in the broiling sun. "Do you have family in Spain?" I inquired. "My wife and my son are there. I miss them, but they are all right, especially with my goal I sent back. My mother and my sisters are there too. It's not an easy life. I miss them greatly." I wanted to learn more about this family. "I'm going to take you back in time, back to your family in Spain in the last time you were together before this current journey and to New World. I will tap you on your forehead and come count backwards from there to one, from three to one. When I reach one, you will be back in Spain with your family. You can remember everything. Three, two, one. Be there." Pedro's eyes were moving Underclosed lids are scanned a scene. I can see my wife and my small son. We are sitting to eat. I see the wooden table and chairs. My mother is there also. Look into their faces and their eyes. See if you recognize them as anyone in your current life. I was concerned that shifting between lifetimes could be disorienting and might pop Pedro entirely out of Francisco's time, but he handled it smoothly. I recognize my son. He's my brother. Oh, yes, he's a Juan. How beautiful. He also found his brother before as that abbot when Pedro was a monk. Although we had never found them as lovers, Juan was enduring soulmate for Pedro. Their soul connection was wonderfully close. He ignored his mother, focusing completely out of his young life on his young wife. We love each other deeply, but I don't recognize her from his life. Our love is very strong. He was silent for a while, enjoying the memory of his young wife and the deep love that they had shared 400 or 500 years ago in Spain, so much different from today's. Would Pedro even taste this kind of love? Did the love of Francesco's wife also cross the centuries to be here again? And if so, would they ever meet? I took Francisco's back to the New World and the search for gold. Go back to the port, I instructed. When you have been unloading the ship, now move ahead in time to the next significant event in that sailor's life. As I count backwards from 3 to 1 and tap your forehead, let it all come into focus to the next significant event. 3, 2, 1. You're there. Francisco started to shiver. I am so cold. I know that internal fever will return. Infernal fever will return. As predicted, a few moments later, the heavy sweating began anew. Damn, he cursed. They will kill me. The sickness and the others have left me behind. They know I can't keep up. They know there is no hope for me and doomed in this godforsaken place. We didn't even find the treasures of gold they swear is here. Chief survived the illness? I asked. He was quiet and waited. I died from this. I never leave the jungle. My fever kills me, and I never see my family again. They will be very grieved. My son is so young. The sweat on Pedro's face was now mixed with his tears. He was grieving his early death, alone in the alien land from a strange disease with no sailors skill could defeat. I had him detached from Francesco's body, and he floated in a state of calm and tranquility, freed from the fever and pain, beyond grief and suffering. His face was much more peaceful and relaxed, and I let him rest. I pondered this pattern of losses in Pedro's lifetime, so many separations from his loved ones, so much grief, as he made his way through the uncertain and nebulous mists of time. Would he be able to find them again? Would he find all of them? Pedro's lifetime contained many patterns, not just losses. In this regression, he remembered being a Spaniard, but he had also been an English soldier killed by the Spanish enemy, and his forces invaded their fortress. So just see, he's been a Spaniard and he's right now being killed by them. We all have been there. Going back to the question, whatever we hate about others is something that we have already been or will be. The only thing we can save ourselves from that is to consciously detach from becoming that version who we don't like. And that needs a lot of inner work, evaluation, gratitude, affirmations. They helped then, they help now, and they will continue to help. Only those who become very used to it, comfortable with it, that okay, it's all right not to do it. We've done it. It's added some magic, so now it's all right. And we stop inviting these synchronicities in our life, or we stop seeing them, even if they happen and they unfold. Going back to Pedro, he remembered being male and he remembers being female. He experienced lifetime as a warrior and lifetime as a priest. He had lost people and he had found them. After he had died as a monk surrounded by his spiritual family, Pedro had reviewed the lessons of that lifetime. Forgiveness is so important, he told me. We all have done those things for which we condemn others. We must forgive them. Such a beautiful thing. It's important to reiterate this, that forgiveness is very, very, very important for our own growth, our soul's journey, our soul's growth. His life illustrated his message. He had to learn from all sides in order to truly understand. We all do. We change religions, races, and nationalities. We experience lifetimes of extreme wealth and of abject poverty, of sickness and of health. We must learn to reject all prejudice and hatred. Those who do not will simply switch sides, returning to the bodies in their enemies. Who wants this? Those we hate is what we have to live if we don't forgive. Today's topic for ourselves, for our own soul's journey, will be forgiveness in the best way that you can. Push yourself out of your comfort zone. In his song Tears in Heaven, Eric Clapton wonders wonders whether his young son, who had tragically died in an accident, would know his name if they met in heaven. His is a universal and ageless question. How will we recognize our loved ones? Will we know them and will they know us? And if and when we meet again, whether in heaven or on earth, once more in physical bodies, many of my patients just seem to know. Experiencing their past lives, they look into soul's companion's eyes and they know. Whether in heaven or on earth, they sense a vibrational energy. And it is the same as their loved ones. They glimpse the deeper personality, and there's an inner knowing, a knowing from the heart, a connection is made because it is the heart's eyes that often see first. Words alone can't convey the confidence of soul recognition. There is no wavering or confusion. Even though the body may be very different from the current one, the soul is the same. The soul is recognized, and the recognition is complete and beyond any doubt. Sometimes soul recognition may originate in the mind and may occur even before the heart sees. This type of recognition happens most often with babies of younger children. They exhibit some physical manners or unique behavior. They utter a word or phrase, and a beloved parent or grandparent is instantly recognized. They may have an identical scar or birthmark as your loved one, or perhaps just hold your hand or look at you in the same special way, In heavens, there are no birthmarks. Would Eric Clapton's son help him there? The songs asked. Would he hold Eric's hands? Would he help him stand in heavens where physical bodies are not needed? Soul recognition may occur through an inner knowing, a sense of a loved one's special energy, light, or vibration. You feel them in your heart. There's a deep and intuitive wisdom there, and you recognize them completely and immediately. They may even help you by assuming the bodies they had during their first to the last incarnation with you. You see them as they appear to you on earth, often younger and healthier. Clapton concludes that he will find peace beyond heaven's door, whether beyond the door to heaven, the door to remembering past lives together, or the door leading to the future lifetimes with your loved ones. They will never be alone. They will know your name, they will hold your hand, they will bring peace and healing to your heart. Over and over, my patients, while deeply hypnotized, tell me that death is not an accident. When babies and young children die, we are given the opportunity to learn important lessons. They're teachers to us, teaching us about values, about priorities, about most of all about love. Often the most important lessons arise from the most difficult times. With this, we conclude today's reading. And at this point, let's once again be so grateful for all the learnings that we've had. And let's kind of recount them as we close our eyes and straighten our backs. I believe this is a morning time for us to go inward. And what we are doing is conditioning ourselves in a fashion where we are able to meditate, to understand these divine synchronicities and the magics and the secrets that are left behind in us for our healing. So set your intention before you go into meditation by first taking a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Be aware of your breath work. Be aware of your breath. Just set the intention. What is it that you wish to see? Or what is it that you're finding an answer, a solution for? Life has been magical. We have lived with our loved ones, and we will continue to live with them. But what is it that we are looking for? And as your eyes are closed, I would request you to be with me as you tap back into your memory and you're taken into some kind of downloads, some information play. And after the meditation is over, whatever you go through, please write them down because you will forget, my dear friends. So now be connected with me and my voice. Slowly it will fade away into your knowingness. You're now relaxed, deeply relaxed. You're aware of your breath work. And as you're so relaxed, with the count of 5, you will be in the state of mind where you will be into the downloads that are going to be happening for you to know today. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Don't doubt whatever is coming, just let it come. Even if you think they're fragments of your imagination, let them come. Just be aware. It's all right to flow in the stories if there's anything unfolding. It's absolutely okay.
Be aware.
And if you tend to sleep, it's all right. Just be connected and flow. Remember, whatever you're getting is meant for you to unfold. Be blessed.